I'm Casey Setash. I'm a PhD student at Colorado State University. We're out here in North Park, Colorado, studying breeding ducks. We just did a lot of nest searching. I think you might have seen that in the last video. So today we're going to be doing some counting. We want to get an idea of how many pairs are out here breeding each year. So we conduct pair counts. We look at how many pairs and then also how many lone drakes we see. When we see just the lone drakes, we kind of assume that their hens are off on nests, so we can use that to see when the birds are starting to nest. So we'll go out on some of these ponds here on the wildlife refuge. It's Arapahoe National Wildlife Refuge, and just start counting them. And then later today we're also going to be checking some of our invertebrate traps that we set out a couple days ago and see what kind of bugs we've got that the ducks might be eating out here. Alright, so we're going to count our first pond here. This is antelope. And the two observers, we do something we call dependent double observer. So with two people, the one person tells the other person what they're seeing, and if the second person sees anything extra, they'll write that down as well. And from that we can actually estimate how well we detected these ducks and get an accurate count of how many are out there. So they're just going to go left to right and count every single thing they see. At this time of year, we're expecting to see quite a few males on their own. Most of the females are out nesting on the landscape. So, and the mallards are even starting to molt already. We can see a male out there that's a little bit drab looking. So we're not expecting to see a ton of pairs out here. Just the males for the most part.
Canvas by redhead. Maybe. Hold on.
Yeah, redhead.
Or is he molting? That's a weird looking dude. Because the female looks like a scaup. I mean, there's a scaup pair right next to him, and then there's another male scaup off to the left. But that dude next to them might be...
I would say redhead and scaup pair.
Okay. Yeah, so scaup pair, lone redhead drake, and another lone scaup drake. I believe that is still our gadwall pair that is moved over to the right.
724. And we're good.
Coolio.
It's a wrap on antelope.
So we're going to do our second count here. Looks like we've got a lot of gadwall pairs and scaup pairs still out there, which makes sense for the point of the season we're at. They're some of our later nesters. So we're just going to go across and see what we've got.
So you're all the way kind of back in here?
Yeah. Okay. Go for it. Okay. There was a gadwall pair there. Oh yeah, they're there. A gadwall pair. They're like way tucked in behind the grass.
Probably taller than me, so I'll go with it.
There's another phalarope.
I'm Lindsay Abernathy. I just graduated from Western Colorado University, and I'm one of the field techs here this summer. IDing birds is super fun. I got started in my ornithology class 2 springs ago, and then last summer I spent at the beach in the Outer Banks of North Carolina working on shorebirds, and then now I'm out here with ducks. So there's differences in trying to ID birds between the beach and here. But no, it's super fun, and I have a blast with it. Favorite thing about being out here, I guess, is just, look around us. It's beautiful. There's no humidity like there is in North Carolina and in the Outer Banks. Mosquitoes are a bit much, but no, I have a blast. And super fun to see how many diverse species of ducks we have here. Ruddy ducks are my favorite. You see a lot of those, so it's pretty fun.
Okay, and then there's I need to look at those. Oh, he's head bobbing. Oh, it's so cool. Another ruddy male. An eared grebe and another coot. And another ruddy male. or pair. And a pied-billed grebe and a cinnamon male. And then the road gadwall. So we do these counts a couple of times throughout the season just to get the span of the early nesters to the late nesters. And we want to see how many males are out there, how many pairs are out there, and see when they start initiating nesting. And one of the main reasons we're doing that is to kind of track the invertebrate production and whether the ducks are tracking those throughout the season. So we're really interested in whether the inverts are kind of pulsing, the resource is like a pulse within the different habitat types throughout the season, and then our ducks are the numbers of ducks that we see out there and the timing of their nesting, is that tracking those pulses and resources. So you'll be able to see when we collect some of those invert traps, the different habitat types have quite a different diversity and number of inverts, and we want to be able to tell, are the ducks actually looking for that when they're selecting habitat before breeding. We are currently going to collect some of the invertebrate traps that we put out 2 days ago. We've got our sieve bottom bucket here and a squirt bottle, and we're going to put it in this little vial here and just see what kind of, this first one is a river section, riparian section, so we're going to see what kind of inverts are available for ducks to eat out here. Maybe hold this for me for a sec. So this is kind of like doing lab work in the field, so you have to be very precise with it. So we got to get our bucket as cleaned out as possible. And then you only want to fill the bucket, or fill the squirt bottle from water that's been inside the bucket, so you're not contaminating it with any other invertebrates that might be in the water. Go ahead and pull this out of the water. Can one of you guys grab that squirt bottle? This is better. And go ahead and empty it in here. Little fish. May I use the squirt bottle? Thank you. A lot of these riparian areas are much less diverse than some of the other habitat types, so I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of invertebrates in here. And then we just want to get it all into the little vial cup that we've got. Thank you. We've got a little sample ID on right in the rain paper that we just stick in there, so the folks who are processing this know where it came from and on what date. And then we'll bring this back to the lab and also put some ethanol in here to preserve the invertebrates. I can get this on. And technicians will take this in the lab and look at these under microscopes and identify every single thing we've got in here down to family, scientific family, and then how many of each species or each family there are, so we can tell not only the abundance, the relative abundance, but also what kind of diversity we're looking at. So you can see in here We've got a couple little fish. There's a couple like midge larvae in there, which are some of the best duck food out there. And a couple other things that I can't identify right now. So it doesn't look like much, but there's actually quite a bit in there that ducks can eat. So yeah, this is what we typically see in one of the riparian sections. Sometimes we'll see caddisflies. I mean, things that you would typically use as flies when you go fly fishing. Caddisflies, stoneflies, mayflies, and occasionally fish. Now that we've gotten this sample, we're gonna go take our one other one that's in a hay meadow and see the differences in the invertebrates in the hay meadow compared to the stream. This project has really been a long time in the making, and it wouldn't have been possible with a bunch of different collaborators. The local water roundtable has really invested in this research so that they can tell the best ways to help duck management on some of these ranches. We've also worked with a bunch of other partners, including Colorado Parks and Wildlife and Ducks Unlimited, and I was lucky enough to receive a fellowship from Ducks Unlimited that's really helped move this research forward, as well as just the small miscellaneous components of doing field work day to day. It's really nice to have those pockets of funding. So we really appreciate all of those collaborators, as well as the landowners that give us access to their properties. It's quite an honor to receive one of these DU fellowships. It's pretty cool to look back on some of the names of people who have received them in the past and know that I'm among those ranks now. And this research really wouldn't be possible without that funding. So it's been a great help to move my degree and my career forward. What? There's some onion.
I don't know. It's like not what I would think, but it's on the other side.
Oh, hey, Bella. Cool, thank you.
I always try and put them in the bucket, and it never worked.
What do you mean?
Like to try and get as much of the bugs from the first pour into the thing.
Oh. Yeah, there's always a lot in the hay meadows. Those are all seeds. Can you squirt? Actually, yeah, go ahead. This invertebrate trap was in a hay meadow, and you can see a lot of seeds from the hay, the Timothy grass, as well as a bunch of beetles in here. I'll show you in just a second. But it's quite different from what we saw in the riparian section. And that's what we'd expect to see in different habitat types. This guy for a sec. So I'm just gonna clean out this trap as well as possible, get every last invert out of there, and then we'll put them in the vial. And so yeah, this is a hay meadow that's on a private ranch here, and they're probably getting ready to cut this in the next couple weeks here. But it's really cool that they let us out on this ranch, and they let us just put these traps all over the place and study the ducks out here. But we'll do the same counts we were doing earlier on these hay meadows as well, so that we can kind of track whether the birds are following them around. And it's really been nice to have access to these properties. The ranchers are very wonderful stewards of the land, and they've also been working with Ducks Unlimited on some projects on the ranch, so it's been a really great collaborative project all the way around. Oh, there's a good one right there. A stonefly. Probably.
I see a Corixidae.
We've got a ton of different invertebrates in here. Got a bunch of different beetles, probably multiple families. These little guys that are swimming around are Corixidae. We had a stonefly somewhere in there. What else do we have? Those little red dots in there are water mites, and they're pretty common among these. I'm kind of surprised we're not seeing a lot of mosquito larvae. These hay meadows tend to grow a lot of mosquitoes, but they might have already all hatched out at this point.
Daphne?
I thought I almost saw the
See
stonefly.
some ostracods.
Oh, there's a stonefly holding on to something.
Mm-hmm. There's like one little fish in there.
Little fishes.
How did they
That
get
dude's
here?
fucked. They're gonna eat him.
Like, what is that fish doing here?
I know. I mean, this water comes from the river, which
True.
goes through the ditches. So once we get all these samples, we bring them back to CSU, and other technicians who have taken entomology and are trained in identifying these invertebrates, they'll go through with a microscope and just count everything that's in there. If there's like thousands and thousands of Daphnia, like in this one, they might subsample it, and they just identify everything down to family so we can get an idea of the diversity and the abundance in each trap. We want to know the diversity and the abundance so that we can track those throughout the season and see within each habitat types, are they changing, and then are the duck numbers that we're counting in those same habitat types tracking along with those. Are they utilizing like the pulses in resources, and we call it riding the winged wave, if you will. They just follow them to each habitat type through the breeding season. We want to know this so that we can inform the ranchers what kind of habitats are producing most of the food for the ducks on their properties. If we're only seeing invertebrates like in high abundances and high species diversity in these ponds and in the big reservoirs, we know that those are of a higher value to ducks, so we can incentivize ranchers to maybe create more storage water on their properties. Whereas if we're seeing a ton of them in hay meadows, we know that those wetlands are valuable to ducks, and we can compare that to nesting then and see is food the driving factor that determines where they nest, or is it more just the habitat? All right. If you guys haven't checked out the other video, make sure to do that so that you can see what other research we're doing out here. And if you like this video, feel free to like, follow, and subscribe. And you can also follow my journey in the research world at Conservation Casey on Instagram or on Twitter. And thanks for watching.